What's going on, guys? Happy FOMC Eve. This is Diamond Hands Dave, and I wanted to make a video because I'm having a rough night of trading Asian session, and it's super choppy, super tight ranging. Mode 2 of the mode 2, right? And it's something I've been trying to do less of. Trade mode 2 chop and just wait on my setup, wait on failed breakdowns. The problem is we could get hundreds of like mini failed breakdowns that don't meet my criteria that I still take. And these are not A+ setups by any means. They're not even like C+ setups. These are more like D, F+ setups. So yeah, I have no business taking these. I don't know why I'm so keen to trade. Like, I don't know why I'm itching to be in a trade. It's not good. It's not good. I should not be itching to trade. If anything, I should be itching to not trade, is really what it is. So, everybody, if you've been trading for any amount of time over like 6 months, you know that trading is very, very difficult. I mean, very difficult. Okay? Trading tests you to your core. It finds everything that's wrong with you and it posts it in your face to see. That's what trading does. Trading amplifies all of your weaknesses, all of your faults, and it basically shows it to you in the form of losses. And in a way, that's a good thing. Okay? Because that's feedback from the market. Okay? If you're in a job, right? Or you're in school and you have a task that you need to do, you may have never done this task before, or you may have done a task before, but maybe you haven't done it very well, and you're trying to improve on this task. Well, you need somebody on the outside to give you feedback on how you did. It's not enough for you to just do the task and say, okay, I feel like I've done a good job with this task, because you're biased. You can't grade yourself, because of course you're going to think you did a good job. Same thing with the market. When we trade as traders, when we take trades, we can't say, oh, I took a good trade. It's measured by whether you, and actually that's not a good analogy. I don't want to say it's measured by whether you made profit or you lost, because you could take an A+ setup, did everything right, and still lose money. So really, the way you get feedback is if you know you're not following your system and you're incurring losses, that's feedback. That's the market telling you you're not following your system, you're not following your plan, and here's some losses to show you that. That's what happens the majority of the time. Okay? I want to separate what happens more often and what happens less often. Okay? What happens more often is when you take trades outside of your system, when you take trades because of FOMO and greed, the market will give you feedback in the form of losses. This happens more often. What happens less often is you not taking your trades according to your rules and your plan and your strategy, and taking those FOMO and greed trades and making money, that happens less often. But I want to point out that it does happen, okay? So that's a very important thing to keep in mind, is that you can go off script, take a ton of terrible trades, or, you know, a few terrible trades or whatever, and still end up green, okay? That's not the market giving you feedback that what you're doing is right. That should be self-reflection for you to realize, I did something really crap, and you should feel bad about it. Usually when this happens, when I make money on trades that are absolutely god awful, and I've broken my rules, I've broken every rule in the book, I will reflect at the end of the day and tell myself, I don't deserve this money. I hate the fact that I made money on this because I didn't follow my rules. I took a trade that was outside of my setup. I took a trade that was outside of my strategy. And unfortunately, and it is an unfortunate case, unfortunately, I made money. Why? Because my brain is now going to associate this positive outcome with bad habits, with the bad habits that I just created, with the bad habits that I just followed, okay? Or the bad behavior. So it's gonna link my positive outcome to my bad behavior, and that's terrible. You don't want that as a trader, and a lot of new traders and beginning traders fall into this, and that's why later on down in their careers they spiral out of control, because they've never learned how to actually follow their system and make money consistently using that system. Maybe they got lucky, they had a string of winnings by doing the wrong stuff, by having bad behavior, and they've gotten rewarded by it. Well, there's going to come a day where, and probably very soon, where they continue that bad behavior and they're on a string of losses, some massive gut-wrenching losses, and then they're going to realize it was actually a curse that you made money in the beginning. And now you have to revamp and actually think about, what is my system, what are my rules, and what should I do? So you never want to make money with a bad system in the beginning, okay? You never want to have a positive outcome based on bad behaviors. That's the absolute worst thing that could happen to you as a trader. It's happened to all of us, but the key thing is, don't let it be ingrained. That's the key thing. Like, don't let that happen too many times to where that's the normal for you, and now that behavior is ingrained and you can't get rid of it. And unfortunately, I think that's kind of what's happening with me. I have a lot of bad tendencies to overtrade and oversize, and believe me, I had never made money off of these behaviors consistently, but there were times that I made money, unfortunately, and now I'm having to undo that and have to rewire my brain to tell it, like, no, these behaviors are not okay, and the positive outcomes that came out of these were a fluke. They're very rare. They don't happen often at all. And what happens most often, again, is when you do take your trade, part of your plan, that's part of your setup, you take your one and done, or whatever rules you abide by, and you make money. That's the market giving you good feedback, saying, okay, you followed your plan, you followed your rules, here's your reward. You made money. Great. Okay? That's what happens more often. Again, on the flip side, what happens less often, you take your trade, that's part of your setup, part of your plan, you follow your rules, and you lose money. That's the market not even really giving you feedback. That's just like, sometimes your setup is not going to work out. Okay? And that could be the market saying, like, hey, listen, you gave it your best shot, but unfortunately this setup just didn't work, and that happens less often. But I want you to understand what happens more. We should be trading based on what happens most often, not on what happens least often. Okay? What happens most often is, if you do what you're supposed to do, you make money. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you lose money. That's what happens most often. What happens least often is if you do what you're supposed to do, and sorry, are we on lease? Yeah, we're on lease often. If you do what you're supposed to do and you lose money, or you don't do what you're supposed to do and you make money, that's what happens least often. And it's a pain to have your brain rewire those two. Okay, so what you want is to do what happens most often, which is follow your plan, follow your system, and make money. Okay, that's what happens most often, in equivalent to if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you lose money. Okay, so these are the scenarios that happen most often. So we should be trading based on what happens most often, which is that first scenario: do what you're supposed to do and make money. Okay, so I hope you guys like my little rant. Tomorrow's FOMC, so just be careful. I'm really gonna try to just take one and done, couple trades here and there. Just like, not even here and there, just a couple trades, sorry. Today I did a good job. Today I took like 1 or 2 trades. They were killers, and I ended the day green, and I feel happy about it. Unfortunately, Asian session, I don't know what it is with me in Asian session. I don't know why I feel like I have to trade Asian session. I end up giving most of it back, if not all of it. And so I just got to break that cycle. I just got to either stop trading Asian session or just wait for my setup to actually occur if I am eyeing Asian session. Anyways, that's it. That's all I got. Hopefully you guys have a good night. Have a good rest of your trading week. Trade safe, trade patiently, and most importantly, trade your plan, trade your system, and make money, which is what happens most often. Peace.